Chapter 71. Two people getting intimate. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Translator. Misty Cloud Editor. Misty Cloud. Yet he didn't get angry at all and only curled up his sexy lips slightly in a provocative and sensual manner. That smile slowly burst forth, seemingly like a rose blooming in the dim light of night, confusing people. After that, a hand extended and pulled Hellion Wei up. The chilly fragrant sandalwood infused with the man's scent wafted into her nose all at once. It was impossible for Wei to guard against it. Seeing his pair of hands so nice looking that even women would be envious, she was slightly puzzled. Wasn't the third prince obsessed with cleanliness and disliked having others touch him? As expected, he only helped her up and immediately let her go. Afterwards, he looked towards the white cat on the ground and said in an indifferent tone. "This highness is hungry." Wei. Didn't they just eat roasted rabbit? How come he became hungry so quickly? Wasn't it said that people from the imperial family ate comparatively little? It seemed that rumors indeed couldn't be trusted. For example, the seventh prince, that little bald head, really could eat. "I'll go hunt another rabbit." After she finished speaking, Wei planned to take action. In any case, she happened to also want to find a place free from people to see if she could wake Xuanming. But Bailey Jiaju blocked her. His deep, phoenix-shaped eyes that slanted up at the corners, looked extremely beautiful close up. "No need. There's a cat here." The white cat's pupils constricted as it looked at that man who was wearing a smile that was not a smile. The fur all over its body stood on ends. In a flash, Wei's figure blocked Bailey Jiaju from the front. "It was alright to eat it previously, but now it's not. It has already formed a contract with me. It's my contracted spirit beast, so please reconsider, Your Highness, and eat something else." "Is it only a contracted beast?" Bailey Jiaju's tone of voice was very indifferent, very cold, as if an ice cube melted and blended in the water, slightly suppressing her nerves. Wei lifted her eyebrows. "If not, what else can it be?" "You're right." Bailey Jiaju profoundly took a quick look at Wei, and calmly turned the black jade ornamental thumb ring on his finger. "Besides being a contracted beast, it cannot also be anything else." The white cat froze from head to tail. Its heart felt an indescribable sense of loss. It even thought that the reality was that she did not have that kind of interest towards it at all. The fire Qilin watched the white cat hanging its head dispiritedly and looked again at the absolutely graceful figure. Was it thinking too much? Why did it feel that those words just now from his master wasn't spoken to Wei at all, but instead was spoken to that descendant of the White Fan clan? The fire Qilin didn't need to think about it anymore. It indeed understood His Highness' way of doing things quite well. Bailey Jiaju had always been an outwardly kind but inwardly evil demon. He knew very well how to eliminate the thoughts that a certain wild cat should not have from its mind, but those kind of methods were all inferior to Wei herself inadvertently rejecting it. Wei didn't understand how, as they were speaking, they wandered away from the original topic of conversation. However, it actually didn't matter. After all, Third Prince already wouldn't bring up the matter of eating cat meat again. She also could be considered to have protected her spirit beast, and now, she'd better think a bit on how to endure past tonight. Wei looked for the dried grass that already couldn't be found. The ground again was full of potholes. It was no longer possible to continue sleeping here. Her eyes focused on the not-so-thin layer of scattered fog. Maybe they could just take advantage of the dim light of night and leave this way. In a moment, if the fog continued to thicken, it wouldn't be so easy to move camp. Moreover, Spirit Forest itself was big. Right now, her physical strength had already surpassed its limit. If more demonic beasts were to come later, she wouldn't know how to handle it. It was still better to leave this place as soon as possible. Thinking up to this point, Wei then began to take action and seriously made some calculations in regards to the distance. She just didn't know how she came to be in such a forlorn place. But there's one thing she was certain of, there was a problem with the map in her hand. In regards to who was the one who wanted to harm her, Wei Wei didn't need to think to be able to guess. She only wondered, when the time came, if Helian Jiao Air and the rest of them saw that not only did she not lose her life, on the contrary, she'd even contracted a cat spirit beast, what expression would they have? Heh, Wei Wei demonically arched her thin lips. First, she commanded the white cat to directly recruit a spirit beast that can help them escape from people. After that, clear away everything that needed to be cleared, including the fire, which needed to be thoroughly extinguished. In this way, make it possible to erase all of their traces to make demonic beasts lose their sense of direction. In merely a short moment of time, the white cat already returned and there was even a black flying horse behind it. It was different from a common warhorse. The black flying horse had a pair of beautiful black wings, and was a penetratingly deep black from head to tail. It exceedingly resembled a demon's mount depicted in a Japanese manga. It wasn't just fast along the ground, but could even fly in the sky. Only, the white cat didn't know why this black flying horse seemed a little off today. Upon questioning, the black horse also didn't give a reason why. Actually, as soon as Wei Wei saw that black flying horse, she whistled in appreciation right away as she inwardly thought if this plaything also existed in modern times, she could become Phantom Thief, character from a manga, and steal wherever she wanted to steal from and could even fly about in the air. Without any further delay, Wei Wei turned her body and mounted, pulled the reins and wanted to spur the horse forward. Suddenly, it became heavy behind her and she opened her eyes wide as her shoulder felt something warm. A big palm then pulled up. Wei Wei now finally remembered that the third prince, who didn't know how to do anything, was still following by her side, only that wasn't this a bit too intimate. His entire arm raised and reached over and pressed on top of her other hand. That kind of posture was just as if her whole body was embraced within his chest. Contrary to expectations, his expression was still self-controlled, an indifferent and purely cold face which made Wei Wei's thought change direction a bit, feeling that she'd been wrongly dirty-minded. What? The guy's eyebrows were raised, incomparably graceful as he rationally also encircled her slender waist. Wei Wei sighed. Apparently, she was indeed mistaken. In the mind of a homosexual, she was but a protector. There simply wasn't any male-female consideration. Nothing. Hold on a bit more tightly, this horse will be a bit fast. Wei Wei also wasn't a narrow-minded person. Unusual circumstances demanded unusual responses. What's important was to be able to leave quickly before the fog rose even more thickly. Bailey Jia Ju was very obedient and snuggled closer to her as an evil smile emerged from the corners of his mouth. Wei Wei felt the continuous warm breaths blowing forward from behind her ear. Inevitably, there would be a kind of illusion of being kissed on the ear. She flung her head back as she raised the long whip and speeded through layers upon layers of fog carrying one person and one cat. Even though there were a lot of demonic beasts within Spirit Forest, however, the ones surrounding them were those low-level demonic beasts. Actually, there were very few demonic beasts that possessed intelligence. Even if they were high-level demonic beasts, there were merely a few species which were blessed by heaven and could open their spirit to receive knowledge. Therefore, they usually always depended on their own intuition. They wouldn't take the initiative to attack those whose strength were greater than their own. As a result, Wei Wei's journey of running over here didn't meet with any difficulty at all. And at this moment, the fire Qilin already heard Bailey Jia Ju's command, concealing itself again. When it was summoned again, it would automatically appear. Because its return to Bailey Jia Ju's side right now not only wouldn't help anything, it was very possible that it would again arouse the four great clans' attention. Especially since Bailey Jia Ju didn't plan on exposing himself so quickly. After all, his stay at White Academy also included an additional identity as the inferior compound's new student. Chapter 72. Stunned everyone. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Translator. Misty Cloud Editor. Misty Cloud, you still haven't found Master. Eunuch's son was simply so anxious that he's going insane as he grabbed a scout and sharply asked. He hadn't slept for a night. Visible veins covered the inside of his bloodshot eyes. Minister Jing, who'd just spoken with the White Fan clan, walked over and tried to console him. Eunuch's son, don't worry, nothing will happen to Third Prince. I've already dispatched the most outstanding people from the academy to go search for him. We'll have news after daybreak. How could I possibly not worry? Eunuch's son stomped his left foot, panicking and anxiously said things he should not have said. Master doesn't have a bit of chi in his body, yet is missing in spirit forest like this, where there are so many demonic beasts within, sigh. Right now, one night has already passed, if we still don't reach Master. He truly didn't dare to imagine what could happen. We will certainly find him. Eunuch, don't be anxious. Minister Jing watched the old eunuch spinning incessantly, like a spinning top. As before, on his mouth were gentle words of consolation, but in his heart there was some disdain. So it turned out that the rumors were actually true. The third prince that was previously acclaimed as the #1 young noble in the country now could no longer be mentioned on equal terms as a prince without any chi. No matter how outstanding he formerly was, he currently was nothing but a cripple. It's been said that even the Fire Qilin also abandoned him, hiding within the deep mountains. When he had a chance, he should really tell Lord Murong so that he could go on a trip to the Kunlun mountain range. Who knows, maybe he could contract with the Fire Qilin and bring it back. Minister Jing was doing a great job of counting the chickens before they've hatched when he suddenly heard the sound of a horse's neigh from the distance. A graceful and purebred shadow with the strength that could almost pulverize everything into dust, a pair of wings burst forth to drop from the sky and directly stood in front of him. Even an experienced and knowledgeable superior compound's elder was inevitably startled by this kind of spectacle. It was the most difficult to capture spirit beast within Spirit Forest, a black flying horse. How did it appear here? Moreover, the person riding it. When Minister Jing moved his gaze and fixed it on that somewhat irritated little face, his pupils abruptly constricted. Hellion Wei Wei. She unexpectedly was still alive. Minister Jing shook all over and stiffly took large strides backward. Originally, he joined hands with his disciple and took part in this plan, because he believed that Wei Wei absolutely wouldn't be able to come out alive. Because that map's final destination was the forbidden area within Spirit Forest that no one dared to venture into. In that place, not only were there man-eating demonic beasts, there was even a thick fog that didn't scatter year-round. Even if it were 3rd years from the superior compound, those who were trapped there would be incapable of escape, let alone a spoiled girl who didn't know anything. Therefore, in Minister Jing's view, at this moment, Wei Wei should have already become a corpse. Yet right now, she not only wasn't dead, but to one's surprise, even harnessed a black flying horse and appeared at White Academy. This made Minister Jing, besides being astonished, also feel his confidence shaken. It's precisely because he felt so uncomfortable that Minister Jing didn't even look clearly at the person who was behind her, and then dragged a little manservant over to have him to find Hellion Jiao Air. Since Wei Wei was still alive, then let's just make the best of it and directly have people from the White Fan clan take her back for punishment. To avoid having anything else happen in the future, he's going to take advantage of his position and power to shake off everything. Minister Jing appears very surprised to see that I've shown up here. Wei Wei nimbly turned herself and descended from the horse, standing beside the black flying horse. One hand gently stroked the horse's head as the ends of her mouth maintained an evil smile. It was that kind of smiling expression that caused the bottom to fall out of Minister Jing's bottom line, adding to his determination of having Wei Wei pushed to the wall to face the end of the muzzle. Following Wei Wei's movement, the other figure on top of the horse's back, however, made him feel an indescribable trembling. It's the third prince. Why would the two of them be together? Eunuch's son also saw Bailey Jia Ju. The old one's eyes gleamed with tears as he threw himself over. Master, you've returned at last, but you've truly worried this old servant to death. Bailey Jia Ju's pair of eyes wasn't moved in the least, and only sat on the horse's back with his eyebrows raised. The 5-year-old 7th prince strode over on his crude legs, eating a meat bun. His cute face looked up. Older brother, how are the two of you together? 7th prince is right. Minister Jing interrupted and came closer, his face wearing a concerned appearance, and spoke words which misrepresented little bald head's meaning. Your Highness should have found an expert to accompany you. Only that will guarantee your safety. If something had happened to you, I'll probably die of worry. Fortunately, both of you safely came back. After saying that, he turned towards Wei Wei and looked over. Was it this black flying horse that brought you back? It seems as if it hasn't been contracted. Why was it willing to carry the two of you? Minister Jing also could be considered a senior who had stayed at White Academy for many years, and knew very well that these spirit beasts that lived in Spirit Forest were actually much more arrogant than those demonic beasts. As long as someone wasn't contracted with them, no matter how powerful any other person with powerful chi was, they still wouldn't allow them to ride on them. Wei Wei shrugged her shoulders and turned around to face Bailey Jia Ju with a look that said, "You're so smart, let's turn this over for you to deal with." Bailey Jia Ju received her message and watched Minister Jing standing below the horse from up high. His pair of deep and clear eyes gleamed and sparkled, mingled within was an indifferent and disaffected cold attitude which seemed like it could emanate an astonishing martial chi at any time. Being watched by him like this, Minister Jing's heart actually trembled. As he looked at Bailey Jia Ju again, he saw that his thin lips were as pale as before. The mysterious dark pupils, although hidden in depth, no matter how one looked, still had the appearance of having received a heavy injury. Minister Jing frowned as he shook his head. Just now, he was just mistaken. He absolutely was mistaken. Even though everyone had wanted to be under the 3rd prince's command, however, that had already changed. It was a fact that the 3rd prince's body was already disabled. A person who was disabled, how could his imposing manner still pressure and make someone who was at gold rank like him tremble in fear? It must be because 3rd prince had occupied a high position for too long a time. Just like yesterday, when he first saw him, he also felt as if chills traveled down his back. Just as Minister Jing was thinking this in his heart, he suddenly heard Bailey Jia Ju's voice come out of a slightly opened mouth. Contained within that voice was even a trace of a devilishly cold smiling expression. Since Minister Jing would like to be involved in my affairs so much, then this Highness can say a few words to retired Emperor on your behalf to have you enter the palace and replace Eunuch Sun's position in the future. In other words, this is the same as cutting out that thing of yours and turn you into an eunuch. Having heard this, innumerable drops of cold sweat then emerged from Minister Jing's forehead all at once. Wei Wei watched that paling face of his and couldn't help but turn again towards Bailey Jia Ju for another glance. She couldn't help but think that 3rd prince truly deals extremely large damage. His 4 pounds of force able to push aside a ton, hitting exactly where it hurts, one sentence suffocating enough that Minister Jing was forced to be anxious and frightened. To speak of sending him into the palace to replace Eunuch Sun's position and so on simply was outwardly kind but inwardly evil to the extreme. No wonder even if he'd lost his martial chi, no one dared to treat him with disrespect. Because from beginning to end, this man's body always contained a sense of danger that could make everyone not dare to treat it lightly. If he was like he was in the past and still possessed that startling martial chi envied by the world, the War Dragon Empire's current power structure would absolutely not be the way it is. Truly, 3rd Prince was also indeed acute enough to know that she didn't want people to know the things that happened to her in Spirit Forest, and went as far as to not say a single word of it. It seems that Master Jing already doesn't have any other question. Then I'll leave first. Wei Wei indifferently took a quick glance at Minister Jing whose face had turned green, and was just about to leave, but the way out was obstructed by a regiment of imperial guards that appeared from who knew where. Chapter 73. Pow Pow Face Slap. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Translator. Misty Cloud Editor. Misty Cloud Translations. Sorry, for some odd reason I got confused. Please note that previous chapters of Minister Jing is changed to Xuanhuan. Sorry for the confusion. What's going on here? Helian Wei Wei's long shapely eyebrows had yet to crease. And Helian Jiao Er already walked over elegantly as her hand pressed on her entirely grieving face. Older sister, this time you've truly charged into big trouble. Charged into trouble? What trouble have I charged into? Wei Wei smiled. She really wanted to see what kind of devilry Helian Jiao Er had cooked up again. The moment you entered Spirit Forest's restricted area, there came news that the prince of the Cat clan was being chased to kill. Oldest sister, there couldn't be such a coincidence in the world. Don't tell me that you still want to deny this. Helian Jiao Er's beautiful eyes fixed on her. Her face was filled with an expression of disappointment at Wei Wei for failing to meet her expectations. Wei Wei rubbed her chin and willfully curled her thin lips. You mean to say that the one who chased to kill the cat prince was me? If it isn't you, who can it be? Helian Mei also walked over and used a gaze for looking at someone guilty of terrible crimes to tenaciously glare at her. We've set up the troops at the main roads, but only your whereabouts were unknown. Oldest sister, I previously only felt that you were shameless yet didn't expect that surprisingly, your heart is so malicious. Wei Wei was just about to open her mouth. Helian Wei Wei, things already reached this stage and you still want to quibble. If it's really as they've said, no matter who your master is, you still wouldn't be lucky enough to survive. People from the White Fan clan are already knocking on the door. Even if I wanted to protect you, it'd still be of no use. Xuanhuan flung his long sleeves, with anger slowly growing, he interrupted her. You should now know what crime you've committed. It's a capital offense. Having heard what was said, Wei Wei pondered as she glanced at Xuanhuan. So this was what it was. As it turned out, it's because there's some trouble that this man, as the acting academy principal, was unable to resolve, so he pushed her to become a scapegoat. He obviously knew that once she entered Spirit Forest, she wouldn't be coming back out. Because the ones who'd planned all of this was him and Helian Jiao Er. In the beginning, she only associated this with Helian Jiao Er, but upon careful analysis, even if Helian Jiao Er was outstanding, she still was merely a new student. The one who could switch out the map to the Spirit Forest when no one even felt or had any idea something happened could only be someone of great importance in the academy. Otherwise, the teachers wouldn't have failed to sense anything wrong with the map even till the end. And who this person was, besides Xuanhuan, there could be no other. Right now, he was teaming up again with Helian Jiao Er. One pretending to be pink-faced, ashamed good guy, the other pretending to be white-faced, stern bad guy, just for the sake of making her be at a loss for words and bend her head to accept the crime. Heh. The Cat clan's prince, right? How coincidental. She just contracted one. Wei Wei smiled very astutely. Seeing her like this, Helian Jiao Er was afraid something was off, as tears dripped from her eyes. Oldest sister, ever since we've entered the academy, I've racked my brains for ways to have people change their perception of you, but this time, your younger sister honestly am powerless. No matter what, I didn't expect that you are this kind of person. After having heard Helian Jiao Er's words, only a swish was heard and those imperial guards erected the pikes held in their hands. Facing this kind of menacing situation, Wei Wei not only wasn't flustered, she instead slowly curved the corners of her mouth. Younger sisters, from the beginning until now, you guys have continuously said that I'm the murderer who chased to kill the cat prince, without giving me even a chance to explain at all. If the person who chased to kill the cat prince wasn't me, then how do you plan to apologize this time? Are you guys going to give yourselves a few slaps again? You. Helian Mei had the most fiery temper. Hearing Wei Wei mention the previous humiliation, she wished she could have the Cat Clan's imperial guards take this slut's body and dismember it into 10,000 pieces. Hellion Jiao Air was clearly much higher leveled, as her eyes swelled with tears from feeling wronged and approached the matter from a righteous angle. Master, disciple knows that it's because I've misunderstood oldest sister in the past, that's why oldest sister is so confident that she'll be in the right again. This time, disciple won't continue to speak anymore, only, people from the White Fan clan are still standing here. Regarding what's right and what's wrong, I believe that they will make a determination in their heart. Having heard to this point, Jing Wuwang seemed to have given up all hope on Wei Wei, as he heavily closed his eyes and tiredly brandished his hand in a big wave. Hellion Wei Wei, this teacher also can no longer manage such a sinful disciple as you. If you still have a conscience, then quickly accompany the imperial guards to go down the mountain and avoid bringing trouble to your fellow student sisters and brothers. Master Jing is right, one person created the problem, so one person should take responsibility. Hellion Wei Wei, if you are still a person from the Hellion family, then don't bring shame upon the Hellion bloodline. That's right. Just because you were undisciplined, don't implicate others. The voices of condemnation rose like the tide and engulfed from all directions, almost swallowing up Wei Wei's entire body. Yet Wei Wei only tilted her head and straightened her own collar while smiling devilishly. Master Jing, everyone knows that I am a good .4 nothing, a good .4 nothing without even a shred of martial chi. How would I be able to chase after a prince from the Cat Clan? As a martial chi master, you can't not know this reasoning. You're someone who's taking the principal's place, yet is unable to distinguish between black and white and just rushed to pour a bowl of dirty water on me without even carrying out a basic investigation. You then already want to punish me for the crime. Having said this, she turned to look behind her at the people from the Tu Zhang and Li families. In those days when grandfather's cavalry defeated enemies at the border, blood dyed the rivers and mountains in exchange for your current glory, and what of you guys? Every single one of you is eager for my death. Hellion Wei Wei. Having his thoughts exposed, Jing Wuwang was shamed into anger and roared loudly. I ordinarily haven't been unkind to you, yet you entrap me like this. This behavior is simply too disgraceful. Wei Wei thought about this as her eyebrows jumped. Entrap. Master Jing, from the very beginning you haven't taken out any evidence to prove that the person chasing to kill the Cat Clan's prince is me. If we're talking about entrapment, then we should say that teacher, you are entrapping me. Master, you need not be long-winded with her. This rebel is fundamentally unable to feel your kindness. Hellion Mei leapt over. She's always been self-indulgent and spoiled and is basically unable to differentiate good from bad. If we're to talk of evidence, doesn't she also have no evidence to prove her own position? What's more, during that time, all of us already left Spirit Forest. Only she acted without following the guidelines on the map. She's clearly done something shameful. Having heard this, Wei Wei's lips curled. Younger sister, who told you that I have no evidence to prove my innocence? What? Hellion Mei was stunned. When Hellion Jiao Air heard these words, her complacent smile also stiffened at the ends of her mouth. Impossible. It's impossible that she would have some kind of evidence to prove her own innocence. They dared to push the crime on her precisely because everything had already been arranged within the academy. Even if the teachers discovered anything, they would be silenced and absolutely wouldn't be able to bear witness on this slut's behalf. Then where in the world did the evidence that she talked about come from? Little White, come out. Wei Wei's voice was very emotionless, yet emitted a chill that made people cold. Come and tell them what the real facts are. Chapter 74. Counterattack. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Translator. Misty Cloud. Editor. Misty Cloud. Who was she talking to? Everyone didn't understand as they looked at each other. Seeing Wei Wei this calm and composed, uneasiness suddenly bubbled forth from the depths of Hellion Jiao Air's heart. However, Before she opened her mouth again, from Wei Wei's shoulder, there rose a cloud of mist, slowly transforming into a white cat. When they saw that white cat, the students from the academy still didn't understand, but those imperial bodyguards from the White Fan clan standing by the side one by one opened their eyes wide as disbelief filled all of their faces. They simultaneously shouted, "Your Highness! What? This little cat surprisingly was the White Fan clan's prince. How's that possible? How was it so little?" Apparently, it seemed as if it didn't even have the ability to transform into a human figure. How could it be the White Fan clan's prince? After Hellion Mei heard the voices addressing it, she clearly somewhat couldn't believe it. Imperial bodyguards, you can't be mistaken, right? Certainly not. Those Imperial bodyguards excitedly turned towards Hellion Wei Wei and walked over. Hellion Jiao Er wanted to block them, but discovered that there's already not enough time. Because those Imperial bodyguards already stood in front of Wei Wei. They looked at that white cat in fear and trepidation. "Your Highness, how did you turn into this appearance?" Even his true body was exposed. The white cat scanned the group of people all around him, its voice purely cold. "Who told you to dispatch the troops, and again, who told you that she was chasing to kill me? If it wasn't for Wei Wei, this prince would have lost his life to a demonic beast. You guys even allowed people to exploit you, to come and arrest our White Fan clan's benefactor. You guys are simply too foolish." The Imperial guards were rebuked until their faces and heads hung dejectedly, not even daring to refute. Once the white cat's voice came out of its mouth, it also thoroughly purged any suspicions on Wei Wei. Not only was she blameless in chasing him to kill, she even protected the White Fan clan's imperial descendant. This fact was the same as a slap from the palm, slap slap slap, to everyone's face. During that instant, Hellion Jiao Er's pale face became extremely confused. No matter what, it was hard for her to imagine that because of their actions behind the scenes, Wei Wei saved the White Fan clan's prince's life. Jing Wu Wang's expression was even more flustered. He didn't know how to confront those questioning gazes thrown at him. "Since Master Jing wants to punish me for the crime, then go ahead and punish me." Wei Wei smiled indifferently as she stood with her spine very straight. Even though she wore dirty clothes made of coarse cloth and that little face was so dark that it was ash black in color, she nevertheless gave everyone a kind of indescribable feeling of oppression. "I, Hellion Wei Wei, according to everyone's wish, will go on to accompany the Hellion family's tens of thousands of souls departed in battle." After hearing this, there was an uproar at the scene. They never thought that Wei Wei would speak in such a resolute way. So that even though Jing Wu Wang wanted to compromise, he couldn't find any pretext for it. What she was doing was to have him mete out her punishment. She was clearly doing this to force his hand. Right now, he was the academy's acting principal. If he made any mistakes, he would lose his position. It was very difficult for the elders from the four great clans to have joined hands to get rid of Tusu Feng, giving him the opportunity to climb upwards. Right now, such a noisy matter was already enough to give people from the imperial family justification to recall Tusu Feng. If Wei Wei continued down this path of no mercy, it's very possible that he'd be pushed to fall into the crime of committing an injustice against a student. When that time comes, not to mention his position as acting principal, even his title as the head of the superior compound would probably be lost as well. When Murong Chang Feng rushed over and saw precisely this scene, his gaze turned to the female standing in the middle of the crowd, and felt that the unbending lonesome view of her back was somewhat dazzling. His previously apathetic heart seemed to suddenly skip a beat at that moment. However, this didn't affect his judgment of the current political situation at all. Jing Wu Wang was the Murong prince's mansion and the Su family's cooperative chess piece, planted within White Academy since 10+ years ago. With great difficulty, he now finally was put to use. At this crucial point in time, how could Jing Wu Wang, because of such a trivial matter, be arrested and possibly be used against them? However, Jing Wuwang truly indeed had nothing to say. Currently, he'd already been caught in a quandary. No matter how he replied, it'd be wrong. This was just like holding onto a hot potato. Wei Wei faintly smiled. This time, she should be able to thoroughly shut up the people who took part in ridiculing her all these years. The atmosphere instantly fell into an impasse. All of the students were apparently waiting for the outcome. Wei Wei, right now, the truth of the matter has already been revealed. Third Prince is also here and naturally has formed a judgment in his mind. Master Jing certainly doesn't have the qualifications to make this decision. The gorgeous and steady tone of voice interrupted the brief silence. Wei Wei glanced back and only saw Murong Chang Feng standing behind her with an indifferent expression as his gaze fell on Helian Jiao Er and Jing Wuwang. After that, he looked away without exposing any trace of partiality. A short sentence was enough to expel all of the pressure that Jing Wuwang had been subjected to. Wei Wei's gaze fiercely fixed on him. The second time. This was already the second time that he cut off her plans. When Lord Murong spoke, naturally everyone would listen. This was the network of friends within the crowd of aristocrats. When anything happened, it seemed as if the actual facts wasn't important at all. He previously swore an oath at the main hall of a Buddhist temple to stand by her with steadfast loyalty. Everyone in court, from top to bottom knew that she, Wei Wei, was to be Lord Murong Chang Feng's future consort. Yet now, not only did he not support her, on the contrary, over time, he'd been sharpened into a sharp sword directly stabbing into her back from behind, killing her without reservation. Everyone said that she wrapped herself around him, that she didn't deserve him, yet no one remembered who it was that originally repeatedly visited the defense division just so he could play together with her. Actually, at that time, it was he who carried her to a hilltop and promised to give her a view of the most beautiful scenery. Yet now, he'd let go and thrown her down the hill disregarding the blood flowing from her head. For the sake of consolidating his own power, Murong Chang Feng chose to protect Jing Wuwang, defend Helian Jiao Er, and abandon her. Wei Wei felt a profound disdain and loathing. Beyond, however, Murong Chang Feng misunderstood and even thought that she was reminiscing, so his gaze softened somewhat. Standing by the side, Jing Wuwang knew that Murong Chang Feng was giving him a way out, so he immediately responded. Lord's right. I'm only a teacher of martial qi. How could I know what was punishable or not in this matter? Having said that, he turned towards Bailey Jia Ju. How about we let Third Prince make the ruling? Once Wei Wei heard this, she felt that everything was hopeless. People from the imperial family was best at feigning ignorance. In regards to a trivial matter like this, Third Prince would naturally stand on the side of Jing Wuwang and the others, especially when the imperial consort he'd selected behind closed doors was on that side. And those aristocratic young lads and ladies understood these rules the most. There also would be no one who would help by speaking up for her. Upon careful examination, she was simply fighting on her own. Wei Wei's thoughts hadn't fully taken shape, when she saw Bailey Jia Ju jump down from the horse. His face wearing the silver mask, dressed in gorgeous and opulent clothes appeared exceptionally handsome, the dense eyebrows and eyelashes, deeply hidden black pupils bewitchingly caused people to be captivated. Chapter 75. Losing one standing. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Translator. Misty Cloud Editor. Misty Cloud, have me make a ruling. Bailey Jia Ju looked at her as apathy streaked through his long and narrow devilish eyes. He appeared as if the matter was of no concern to him at all. Then just let it be a capital offense. Capital offense. Helian Wei Wei's hands clenched. What a great Third Prince, kicking a benefactor in the teeth like this. All of those rabbit meat that she roasted within the spirit forest were, without exception, all fed to a dog after all. Truly, he didn't have one bit of a conscience. Wait a minute. Wei Wei's eyebrows jumped. He said it was a capital offense, so why was he extending his hand? He's not thinking that his hand was so good. Looking that she would forgive him. The light in Wei Wei's eyes radiated determination as she lifted her head and originally was going to give him a slap on the face, but her entire body fell into that man's pair of eyes which were as deep as an ancient well and as dark as black ink. That pair of eyes seemed to possess magic, as if they could suck her into them. Wei Wei blanked out. Ha! Didn't he want to give her a death sentence? Why did he still want to take her by the arm before she died? She thought that third prince knew how to conduct himself too well, giving her sweets to eat before having her face death's door, so as to properly have her not resent him when she arrived in hell. Forget that she truly could still be a bit soft-hearted like that. However, he really underestimated her too much. Did he think that he could casually use his masculine charms to seduce her and she would just surrender? Eunuch's son was simply going insane because of this girl from the Hellion family. He lowered his voice and anxiously urged her. Miss Hellion, master is helping you, shouldn't you hurry and take his hand? How much longer do you intend for him to stoop down? Wei Wei actually didn't think that third prince would help her. She extended her hand and placed it on top of his fingertips. The touch unexpectedly made her feel limp and numb. As if avoiding the dirt on her hand, he only held her a short while before loosening his hand. On his upright yet evil handsome face was a gracefulness that wasn't touched by anything profane. One couldn't tell his state of mind from his picturesque appearance. She discovered that she truly was unable to see through this third prince. After that, she heard him say. He is the Academy's acting principal, yet he took the lead to entrap a loyal and righteous person from the younger generation. Naturally, this is a capital offense. His voice wasn't loud, yet was so ice-cold that it seemed as if it could compress other people's throat. Everybody could feel a chill from the bottom of their hearts. Their blood felt as if it was freezing. It was so quiet that they could hear the sound of their blood circulating. It was so quiet that it's scary. Even the air seemed to have stagnated. Jing Wu Wang's face paled all at once. He stood there rigid from head to toe. A "put" sounded out when he kneeled on the ground. Probably it's because that power was too great, so great that it made Hellion Jiao Air also immediately shiver all over from the cold while perspiration drenched the handkerchief in the palm of her hand. As she watched Bailey Jia Ju, her mouth opened to speak, yet she also didn't dare to speak. Murong Chang Feng didn't anticipate that things would develop this way. A trace of astonishment clearly streaked across his face. He never thought that the always single-mindedly apathetic third prince surprisingly would get involved in this matter. Furthermore, once he took control, he was so overwhelming. Such that Murong Chang Feng, who wanted to refute him, entirely couldn't find a pretext for it. Entrapping a loyal and righteous person from the younger generation. With such a big net having been released, no matter how many people were involved, they would have all committed a capital offense. Only Hellion Mei wasn't able to properly perceive the mood. Rather than say she couldn't perceive the mood. Let's say instead that she just simply didn't believe that such a high and aloof third prince would extend his hand to help a good. Nothing. Your Highness, did you say it incorrectly? How could the person who was sentenced with the death penalty be Jing Wu Wang? Hellion Mei furiously pointed at Wei Wei. Clearly, this girl was harboring unfathomable motives. She'd already saved the Cat Clan's prince and didn't say anything until the last minute in order to entrap the teacher. Once Hellion Jiao Air heard these words, she knew, damn it, as she stepped forward and hurriedly berated. Younger sister, shut up. Why should I shut up? Older sister, look at this girl. Is she the same as she was before? Not at all. She's a downright crafty little snake. We only strayed a little yet she bit firmly without letting go. I also wonder where she's recently learned some methods to charm and deceive. Even His Highness who you like the most is. Slap. Hellion Jiao Air saw the surrounding people gradually show looks of comprehension and that man's eyes becoming as ice-cold as a deep pool. Unable to stand it anymore, using the palm of her hand, she fiercely slapped Hellion Mei on the face. This slap didn't merely stun Hellion Mei at that moment, even Wei Wei didn't expect it as she raised her eyebrows, following which she stroked the white cat. The corners of her mouth hooked into a devilish smiling expression. Hellion Jiao Er's chest moved up and down and seemed as if she was suppressing her anger. She knew clearly what kind of man he was. The number of women he'd already rejected were innumerable. What a high and aloof person like him hated most was to have people set him up. That's why for the past many years she'd always been silent before him. Even if she heard news having to do with him, she also only smiled demurely. So much so that when she learned about third prince choosing a consort, she didn't disclose her feelings to anyone at all. She pretended that she didn't care much for him. Even when other girls from prestigious families asked her, she also suppressed her complacency and delight as much as possible. But how about now? In but a moment, Hellion Mei exposed all of the secrets within the depths of her heart in front of everyone. She could almost imagine how those girls who normally had good relations with her and dragged her to talk about third prince must look at her now. It's enough that her third sister was stupid on her own, but she had to also drag her down as well. How could this not make Hellion Jiao Er angry? You hit me. Second sister, you went so far as to hit me. Hellion Mei's shrieks were indescribably ear-piercing. As hot-tempered as she was, she glared and was going to pounce and grab Hellion Jiao Er's hair. She couldn't accept being slapped on the face in front of so many people. Hellion Jiao Er perceived that she didn't know how to exercise restraint and became truly angry. She grabbed Hellion Mei's wrist and said in a hushed voice. You stop now. Hellion Mei, do you intend for everybody to make a joke of us sisters? If they're making a joke then let them. Hellion Mei had been incited into a belly full of fiery anger. Hellion Jiao Er didn't want people to know, but she instead was determined, either the fish dies or the net splits, she'd stake even her life. In any case, from childhood until now, I've been nothing but a joke to you. Hellion Jiao Er paused. How could you think that? Don't tell me otherwise. Isn't it so? Hellion Mei shouted loudly. Compared to her usual self, this was apparently even more reckless, completely unrestrained. She basically took her ugly side and totally exposed it to the world. No matter what the misdeed, you prompted me to go do it. I was only your tool. Wherever you say to strike, I must strike there. And the result was that you gained a good name for yourself, but I haven't gained anything. Even father loves you more. They should see properly that you're actually nothing. Hellion Mei. Hellion Jiao Er trembled all over and reprimanded with hushed tones. What in the world is the matter with you today? Hellion Mei coldly smiled. Her pair of eyes were red. Me. I've only been awakened by the slap from your palm, you malicious whore. Everyone was stunned by this scene. One ought to know that this pair of beautiful sisters ordinarily was well liked by everyone who'd seen them. The older one was sweet-tempered and beautiful. The younger one had a lively temperament. Even when they spoke they attracted people's affection. But look at today, what was this? She was just like a street shrew, my God. While everyone's mouths were opened wide in shock, only Bailey Jia Ju glanced at Wei Wei beside him. His gaze was emotionless, cold and deeply hidden like an ancient well. Chapter 76. Kneel to apologize. You are listening at novelfull.audio. NV.translator. Misty Cloud editor. Misty Cloud. During that split second, Wei Wei thought that she was seen through. However, after thinking about it again. Even if she was seen through, so what? Her beautiful phoenix-shaped eyes looked up, an appearance of a belly full of attitude. This was the perfect opportunity to leave third prince with an impression of a malicious spoiled girl, and save herself the trouble of having the consort selection matter fall on her in the future, which wouldn't be good. Consequently, Wei Wei patted the spirit beast on her shoulder and used a voice that only two people could hear to lightly laugh and say. Little White did pretty well. I haven't actually done anything. I've merely borrowed her older sister's well-timed slap, and have her say what's in her heart out loud, that's all. The white cat disdainfully looked at the two people in front of him tangled in the fighting and stroked its whiskers in disgust. Because of this, Wei Wei was able to kill two birds with one stone. When Bailey Jia Ju heard those words, his eyes actually became more ponderous, so much so that the corners of his mouth perked up into a kind of an evil arc. This made Eunuch Sun suspect for a time whether his own eyes were deceiving him. Otherwise, why would his master treat a swarthy girl so favorably? This was a misperception, it must be a misperception. And at this moment, the person who in the past appeared innocent and pure, Hellion Jiao Er, already had her hair grabbed by Hellion Mei. The pain transferred from her scalp was so painful, it almost made Hellion Jiao Er unable to control her urge to swear and curse. She was utterly exasperated as she glared at Hellion Mei. She knew that saying more wouldn't be any use, so she might as well gather the qi in her body. Once she exerted herself, Hellion Mei was pushed over 1 meter away. Murong Changfeng's complexion became ashen. He didn't understand what the heck was going on. How could Hellion Mei, who'd always listened to Hellion Jiao Er, say these horrible things? He remembered that when he visited the defense division, this pair of sisters clearly weren't this way. Looking at the way they are now, compared to at that time, they're really as different as heaven and earth. Could it be that this was their true nature? Murong Changfeng's body stiffened. Hellion Jiao Er was still a bit better, however, she appeared more fierce than usual. That Hellion Mei was just like a mad dog. If she was allowed to continue speaking like this, she might bring to light some other matter, but if he said something to protect them, it'd also be shameless. Thump. Hellion Mei was fiercely thrown to the ground. One after another, the comments from people all around her entered her ears. She flung her head back and gradually was able to clear her head. Recalling those things that she'd said just earlier, her complexion immediately changed greatly. Why was this? How did it become this way? Just now, it was like she was possessed, saying everything she shouldn't have said. No, Hellion Mei hugged her head and shrieked. Who was it? Who entrapped me? I simply didn't want to say these things. It's done for. Everything had been ruined. The look of despair was exposed on Hellion Mei's face. Her throat was suffused with a bitter and sour taste. She simply didn't dare to look at the people all around her. What's more, even the young men from prestigious families were all standing here. Her conduct was so uncivilized just now, she was afraid she won't be able to get married in the future. Upon seeing this, Hellion Jiao Er also immediately teared up. As a pair of sisters, when had they ever cut such a sorry sight before? She didn't believe that this matter wasn't related to Wei Wei at all. She also knew that at times like this, she could no longer be fierce and must be softer in order to arouse people's sympathy. That's why Hellion Jiao Er disregarded their former hatred, held out her hands to hug Hellion Mei, and turned around to face Murong Changfeng's direction while she called gently. Lord, younger sister must have been the victim of some demonic curse, that's why she went against her heart and spoke those kinds of things. Jiao Er begs Lord to allow us sisters to leave and rest first. That Hellion Mei becoming insane all of a sudden was also a good thing. Even though she also didn't want to see her own blood-related younger sister lose her reputation. However, in this way, she's able to have a way out. Otherwise, Third Prince might have her and Jing Wu Wang dragged down together. Right now, she can take advantage of the chaos and muddle through this matter. However, Wei Wei had never been someone who could suffer a loss and just let it go. She looked at Hellion Jiao Er and spoke in a lukewarm voice. Second sister, you're just going to leave after having accused me wrongly, is that it? Hellion Jiao Er's arms stiffened as her beautiful eyes reddened and tears dripped down as she glanced at Wei Wei. Looking from a distance, people who didn't know what's going on would even think that she, instead, was the one who was wronged. However, everybody already knew that the situation was not like that at all. That's why her act at being pitiful this time simply wasn't useful. Such that even Murong Changfeng didn't speak out to help her again. Helian Jiao knew that this time, she'd have to acknowledge her mistake and apologize. Maliciousness flashed through her eyes as her little face hung down slightly. She turned towards Wei Wei and curtsied, following which her lower jaw clenched. Older sister, this time younger sister is wrong. I shouldn't have, without any investigation at all, wrongly accused you. It's good that you know you're wrong. Wei Wei laughed. What I'm afraid of is that up until now, younger sister's heart is still unconvinced, or else why curtsy with an unreconciled heart and feel unwilling about it. Helian Jiao tenaciously clutched her fingers as her back bent again, and even both knees immediately bent and touched the ground, while her face strained to prop up a shallow smile. Is older sister satisfied now? Whether I'm satisfied or not isn't important. What's important is you, younger sister. Wei Wei curved her thin lips and paused after each word. Will you submit? She did it on purpose. She deliberately wanted to add an emphasis on the last three words. Helian Jiao was so angry her entire face became twisted, yet she couldn't help but lower herself further and replied with a trembling jaw. I submit. After saying these two words, the handkerchief in Helian Jiao's hand absorbed layers of bloodstains. To have her face Wei Wei with this posture, this was simply more difficult to bear than having her killed. She'd rather slap her own mouth than have other people see her like this, watching her bowing on bended knees, while Wei Wei possessed all of the glory. Not only that. This time, they even lost her younger sister's reputation as well as a lifeline at the academy that the Su family had been bribing for so many years. If grandfather knew of this matter, he would go into a thunderous rage for sure. And also third prince. How could Wei Wei have that man watching her bow to another person? All of these things happening were because of Wei Wei, that slut. Helian Jiao wished she could kill her right now, but she knew that she couldn't do that. That's why she could only bite her own thin lips and allow those imperial guards to drag Jing Wuwang away. She must get back at that little slut no matter what method she used. She couldn't wait until the Grand Martial Qi competition, and also couldn't wait until after the consort selection. She wanted that little slut to die now. The light in Helian Jiao's eyes drifted, then burst with a malicious intent. Yet Wei Wei didn't care in the slightest. The White Fan family were spirit beasts which were most capable of understanding the human heart, to say nothing of the fact that Little White was even a prince. Naturally, he could sense all of the resentment that issued from Helian Jiao's body, so he clearly and coldly reminded Wei Wei. If this highness were you, I'd immediately have her killed. Why make her say some apology and kneel or whatever? It's just a waste of time. You don't understand, what's most painful to humans is not death. Rather, it's to have them lose the things that they depend on most in life. For example, power, or face. She believed that just now, Helian Jiao's feelings must have been even more difficult to bear than death. For the past so many years, Wei Wei had always lived like that, suffering all kinds of humiliation, living worse than death. What she'd wanted had never been to settle it with one knife. All of the things they possessed should have belonged to the Helian family. Regardless of how these people took away all of these things from her, she would seize them back bit by bit in the same way. Chapter 77. His Highness in Disguise. Again, you are listening at novelfull.audio. Translator. Misty Cloud. Editor. Misty Cloud. Outside of White Academy, after Su Jiacheng heard the news that Helian Jiao was disgraced, he and Helian Guangyao dashed over together. Grandfather, Daddy, I really can't stand that good. For nothing anymore. Helian Jiao had thoroughly lost her patience. Her eyes filled with maliciousness fixed at a corner of her handkerchief. I want her name removed from the Helian clan's family register. After he heard his granddaughter's words, Su Jiacheng answered, originally, I thought that this good.4. Nothing wouldn't be able to withstand anything that happens. I didn't expect that she'd destroy the relationships that I've established for so many years. Since she's like this, unable to tell what's good from bad, then let's make sure she tastes some suffering. Guan Yao, you go take care of this matter. Those family members with ambitions remaining in the Hellion family, I reckon that they already don't want to allow a good.4. Nothing to stay within the clan and hinder their ambitions. Hellion Guan Yao nodded his head. However, as devious as he was, he already discovered something suspicious, that evil spawn and third prince both can't use chi. How in the world did they run from such a dangerous area within Spirit Forest and escape out here? Could it be possible that the evil spawn has hidden something from me? What could she possibly have? Hellion Mei covered her head that was bumped and cut, and disdainfully screamed, she was just lucky and saved the White Fan clan's prince, so he lead them out of the forest. Otherwise, based on her three-legged cat kung fu asterisk, she would have died inside Spirit Forest early on. Asterisk translator's note. Three-legged cat kung fu meant that her martial arts skills are terrible. Mei pay attention to your tone of voice and your status for me. Hellion Guang Yao was already angry with her previously. Today, precisely because of this daughter of his, he completely lost all face. Everyone in the capital now knew that he, Hellion Guang Yao, raised a rude and vulgar juvenile. You haven't improved at all after so many years. Also today at the academy, it's enough that you humiliated yourself, yet you even dragged your second sister out. If that brain of yours doesn't get any brighter, this father of yours is going to write a letter to have you quit school and get married. At the moment, Hellion Mei felt wronged for being scolded, yet dared not retort at all. Everybody within the capital knew that a girl who withdrew from the academy simply wouldn't be wanted by anyone, unless she married those men old enough to be granddads. As arrogant as she was, how could she accept that? Just thinking about that possibility was enough for her to feel nauseated. Habitually in the past, by this time, Hellion Jiao would have already helped her smooth things out. But now, Hellion Jiao only sat by the side, expression unchanged as she drank her tea. In her eyes, she was already fed up with Hellion Mei's stupidity. Hellion Mei wasn't aware of it yet, and was only focused on wanting to soothe Hellion Guang Yao's temper. Nobody was aware of the objective that Wei Wei most wanted to achieve in doing what she did today. However, she already successfully accomplished the first step. If one wanted to destroy an organization, it's necessary to first sow discord from the inside. Wei Wei didn't need to see this scene within the horse carriage to know that, without exception, we shouldn't keep by her side someone with an unsafe disposition who knew all about her weaknesses. Previously, when Hellion Mei and Hellion Jiao lived at the defense division together, they weren't noticeable. However, they've now both arrived at White Academy. All of their conflicts will be clearly exposed little by little. One was at the superior compound and was lavished with adoration endlessly. Even though the other one wasn't treated badly, however, the treatment she received was far from being as good as the former. Hellion Mei wasn't some goody two-shoes. It'd be strange if she wasn't jealous of Hellion Jiao. And Hellion Jiao wasn't aware of the danger, yet. Wait until she came into contact with the real world, she'd find out at once that having this kind of sister knowing all of her secrets sometimes wasn't a good thing at all. When that time comes, I won't need to make a move, they'll be dog-eat-dog soon enough. Wei Wei whistled leisurely and carefreely. Her mood was absolutely wonderful as she returned to her own living quarters at the inferior compound. Too many things had happened in the last couple of days. It wasn't easy to have arrived at her own place at last, so Wei Wei relaxed right away, simply tossing her shoes and outer garment, and just like that, lazily rested her upper body face down on top of the desk, taking out the dragon pill that she previously earned from Bailey Jia Ju and swallowing it. She wanted to try to wake Yuan Ming, but discovered signs of a kind of excitement emerging within his entire mental state. That's how Wei Wei realized that Yuan Ming's deep sleep might not be a bad thing. Let's allow him to sleep then. Who knows, maybe when he woke up there might be some kind of happy surprise. Wei Wei exerted force from her palms. All of the essence within the dragon pill was absorbed into her body instantly. The air around her immediately swirled up. In addition, the ancient scroll on the desktop also rotated continuously and made sounds for a period of time. The white cat that was crouching by the side basking in the sunlight sat up. Within its eyes flashed a light of surprise. From the beginning, it knew that she wasn't simple, but it didn't think that she would be a cultivator who could manipulate nature. As a matter of fact, within not just merely the Dragon War Empire, even counting the sea territories, a second cultivator who could manipulate nature would not be found. This kind of cultivator was either a good for nothing who was unable to do anything, or they'd be an earth-shaking genius who was in control of all chi. Very obviously, its master belonged to the latter category. Previously, his clansman was even questioning why he chose someone infamous throughout the capital as a trash to be his master. Because he's keeping her secret, he simply couldn't tell them the real reason, and only said it's to repay a debt of gratitude. After a while, he'd return to the clan. And the people here at White Academy still didn't even know that she already had her own spirit beast. In addition, he'd just heard people at the superior compound say, at the martial chi competition not far from now, that person from the Hellion family will lose especially miserably for sure. Don't even think about it being possible to be chosen as a consort. Third Prince generally liked clean and pure women, yet she even went through a divorce before. She basically had no chance already. In addition, retired Emperor certainly won't let a good for nothing marry into the imperial family. Heh. He wondered what kind of thoughts those girls talking behind her back would have after they saw this scene. The white cat's gaze narrowed, its expression profound. What's more, after having entered into the contract, it also already sensed that besides her original chi, there was a portion of an extremely dense ancient chi also inside her body. If it didn't guess wrongly, that must be her contracted demon. When all was said and done, who could possibly possess a contracted demon from ancient times? Just when the white cat was going to open its mouth and ask Wei Wei about it, a figure as pure and cold as the moon appeared by the door. That young man was incredibly handsome. His hair hung down upon his white clothes and black robe like an ink painting, making people feel a kind of restraint incapable of profanity. This was obviously the first time it had seen this young man, yet it generally felt that there was an indescribable feeling of familiarity. What's going on here? The white cat twitched its whiskers and subconsciously became alert. Little white, be good. He is my little brother. Wei Wei stroked the white cat's head, and indolently propped up her chin, turned towards Bailey Jia Ju and raised her brow. Why are you here? There's no money to give today. This was the first time that Bailey Jia Ju, with his mask removed, felt that White Academy's uniform of white clothes and black robe wasn't bad. It concealed all of the smells and aura on his body. What's more, the image he presented in front of the world, could be controlled as he wished. So, for example, Bailey Jia Ju now increased a trace of demonic aura without misgivings, straightforwardly placed a hand on the desktop, and little by little, pressed down towards her. Chapter 78. Questions on positions. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Translator. Misty Cloud Editor. Misty Cloud. He pronounced each syllable slowly, every single word meant to charm. I didn't come to get paid. I came worried about my financial backers safely. I heard that you were taken to be a criminal by the Cat Clan and almost got arrested. Look and see how good Third Prince's acting was. Wei Wei yawned, didn't move back, and instead moved forward to pat his head. Don't worry, your big sister, I am not so easy to bully. All of them were forced to return by me. Really? Bailey Jia Ju looked at her motions meaningly, and after that, indifferently asked, I also heard that you stayed with Third Prince alone for a day at Spirit Forest. Wei Wei mmm'd a sound and suddenly seemed as if she thought of something, grabbed his sleeve, said, if you didn't say it, I would have forgotten. Would you believe, he unexpectedly is the one on the bottom. What? Bailey Jia Ju's gaze paused. Wei Wei explained in response, homosexuals, aren't they classified as top and bottom? I really didn't expect, third prince appears to have such an imposing manner, yet surprisingly is willing to be positioned under someone. Positioned under someone. Good, very good. Bailey Jia Ju's bewitching thin lips emitted an unprecedented chill. In the future, he'd make sure she knew whether he really was at the top or at the bottom. You're amazed, right? When I first guessed this, I was also very surprised. Wei Wei didn't notice his expression at present, too busy going through her things to take out the washed handkerchief from before, folded it carefully into a square and put it inside a yellow little box. Shadow, who was concealed outside, heard what she said and went weak at the knees while cold sweat burst forth and turned to vapors. He wanted to make some movement and signal Wei Wei to stop what she was saying. However, Bailey Jia Ju merely raised his head, turned towards the window and glanced outside. Shadow's four limbs then stiffened at once, and withdrew to his original spot. Bailey Jia Ju retracted his gaze to fall on Wei Wei's hand. His thin lips curved up somewhat. You seem to treat the handkerchief as a treasure. Of course it's a treasure. Wei Wei pretended to be serious as she said, this is actually a handkerchief that third prince has used before. Oh. Bailey Jia Ju dropped his eyes as a light flashed in them, seeing how much she cared about his handkerchief. In that case, he'll let her off. As Wei Wei was pressing on the lid, she was muttering, I heard people say that a handkerchief he's used before is very valuable. After packaging it well, will resell to other young ladies. Should be able to fetch a good price at that time. You wanted to take and sell it. The tips of Bailey Jia Ju's fingers paused and calmly interrupted her words. Wei Wei also didn't know if there's a problem with her sense of hearing. She actually felt that face over there expressing a thread of annoyance. Well yes, what's up? Bailey Jia Ju's gaze lightly chilled, his ice-cold breath blew over, not the slightest bit of feeling could be heard within the tone of his voice, nothing. It would seem that this pet still had not learned to be obedient. It's time for him to rip out her claws. Ah! Bailey Jia Ju smiled with an evil coldness, making Shadow immediately shiver all over and nearly fell down from the tree. Ever since Master met this Hellion family's oldest daughter, he tended to smile more and more. This truly may not be anything good. Because for a person like His Highness, smiling was more horrifying, indicating even more that his mood was not very good. So I look a lot like the one on the bottom. When there were only two people, Bailey Jia Ju and Shadow, he slightly raised his dense eyebrows and asked the servant following behind him. Shadow's scalp numbed, immediately shook his head, and spoke in a low voice, Your Highness, even if you were willing to lie down, no one would dare to keep you under them, for sure. Really? Bailey Jia Ju slowly twisted his ring, exquisite thin lips unhurriedly curved up, however, since she likes this position, then at that time, if I don't satisfy her, wouldn't it be too unkind? Shadow's back stiffened. What did he mean by since she liked this position? Your Highness, the position that you're talking about shouldn't be that position that subordinates thinking about, right? Bailey Jia Ju reclined under the ancient tongue tree and didn't say anything more. Instead, his fingertips turned, took hold of, and wore the silver mask again. It's just perfect for covering up that by no means gaudy handsome appearance. Only those deep eyes and one pair of elegantly contoured thin lip was exposed. Thinking that before long, he'd be able to strip the little fox's claws, have her sit on his body, letting him do whatever he pleased, those deep eyes submerged even deeper. The slender and long fingertips brushed across his thin lips, while young man's smile exuded even more devilish charm. He'd do what he said he would and let her know just how he'd be positioned under someone. A light wind brushed by. In the blink of an eye, under the dense, ancient tongue tree, there no longer was that black robe and moonlight like white clothes. At the west side of the academy, Wei Wei received news telling her to make a trip down the mountain. The clan elders had some important matter to announce. Wei Wei didn't know why these people, who she hadn't seen for 10 years, thought of her and suddenly came today. Once she visited the clan hall later, she'd find out whether they came on behalf of Helian Jiao heir to take revenge. Ah, she wanted to see. What in the world did they think they could do to her? Wei Wei's pair of hands crossed in front of her chest, and coldly laughed. Those mocking eyes made Helian Guangyao, who was sitting at the center seat, feel the pit of his stomach indescribably shudder. When his senses returned, he fiercely slapped the tabletop. His face expressing an unprecedented rage. Should this be your attitude? Doing whatever you want. No respect for elders. Helian Guangyao's eyes were gloomy, his tone of voice was full of loathing. If I'd known earlier that you're the root of trouble like this. That year, regardless of feelings or face, I would have immediately thrown you out. And now, each and every elder within the clan had observed everything that you've done at White Academy during this time. Wei Wei, bear in mind, it's not that father doesn't want to protect you, it's that you, yourself, are too spoiled. I'm already getting old and don't want to see your gentle and meek younger sister destroyed at your hands like this. After speaking, Helian Guangyao looked to the 4 elders sitting at one side. Various elders, in all likelihood, before all of you came, you already heard about how this matter developed. Because of a misunderstanding, this evil spawn made her 2 younger sisters kneel and apologize to her. So vicious, every time I think about it, sigh, I feel that I have no face left. After hearing what was said, those 4 elders, one after another, put down the ceramic cup in their hands. Among them, one laughed mockingly. I said before to have this trash driven out of the clan to save our Helian family's face. Now, great. She dared to bully even Miss Jiao Air. Miss Jiao Air's actually someone who's participating in the martial chi competition soon and also is a talent personally selected by retired emperor. This trash forced her to bear such a big grievance. This is only adding disgrace to our Helian family. Another elder followed by commanding, someone come take this trash and beat her 100 times with the board, then throw her out of the mansion. This kind of person mustn't be allowed to stay. Chapter 79. Older sister doesn't appreciate it. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. Translator. Misty Cloud Editor. Misty Cloud. After speaking, that elder stood up. But at this time, Yuan Ming, who was concealed within Wei Wei's body, suddenly opened his eyes. Suddenly, with a plop, that elder actually inexplicably kneeled on the ground. Helian Wei Wei naturally was aware that Yuan Ming had finally regained consciousness. The corners of her mouth slightly curved up, looked at that stunned elder and said, "Nya Wu Lin, you're an elder promoted by my maternal grandfather. If it weren't for grandfather, you'd merely be a poor old man with no power and no influence. Now you talk to me of disgrace. Do you have the qualifications, After saying this, she scanned each of those elders bit by bit while they were huffing from their fury. And also, you guys. Which one of you haven't received grandfather's favors? Yet now you join hands with outsiders. Because of those insignificant benefits of yours, you want to throw me out. You're indeed acting out a great play. The elders used their hands to press on their chest, so angry that even their fingers were shaking. Wei Wei's words practically tore open the filthiest disgrace within their hearts. They truly did receive the Defense Division's favors. Indeed, these favors made them feel suffocated in their hearts. Everything they wanted to do depended on that Helian old man's intentions. They'd simply already had enough. That's why after that Helian old man passed away, they very quickly stood on the new clan chief's side. Even though Helian Guangyao managed the Helian clan on behalf of Wei Wei, because she's not an adult yet, still, they'd rather that the clan chief continue to be Helian Guangyao. If it's this way, not only could they be as tyrannical as they want, they also totally didn't have to care about anyone else's intentions. When they were bored, they could even use Wei Wei as a joke for them to make fun of. She could only blame herself for being a good. 4. Nothing, humph. The feeling of taking that hellion old man's precious daughter and stepping her underfoot was very comfortable. Heh heh. Wei Wei had already seen quite a few people before. How could she not know how these people thought? She curved her lips and indifferently smiled, then taunted blatantly, sometimes we really shouldn't promote someone. Who knows, maybe there'll be a day when the gratefulness becomes hatred. Respected father, don't you think so? That's enough. Having heard Wei Wei bringing it up, the intense feeling of humiliation made Hellion Guangyao practically wish that he could squeeze her to death. That elder kneeling on the ground was even more furious, finally at the breaking point. Some people really are too much, doing someone a little favor, yet talking about it every day. Going so far as to slander our integrity. Head, you must act on our behalf. Wei Wei. Having heard that elder's words, Hellion Guangyao inhaled a deep breath. If you admit your wrongs now, there's still time. If not, then don't blame this father for not holding back. He thought these words would scare Wei Wei into exercising some restraint. However, it didn't do anything. The other person merely smiled mockingly as she looked at him. That kind of smiling expression made him indescribably agitated at heart. Fine, insist being stubborn. Hellion Guangyao smiled from extreme anger. Since it's like this, from today onwards, you can just get lost. The Hellion clan doesn't want spoiled trash like you. Having heard what was said, Wei Wei slowly laughed. So this is your aim, right? In order to get revenge for that dear daughter of yours, you actually allied with all of the elders to banish me from home. However, don't forget the Hellion clan's rules. As long as a descendant possesses Hellion blood, even if they are expelled out of the clan, they can go through the test and come back anew, and can even wield power over the entire clan. Hellion Guangyao, you seized my inheritance. I'll temporarily retreat for the sake of something secret. Heh. But I'll tell you one thing, there'll inevitably be a day when I'll return to squash your left arm, and cut off your right arm. Almost without hearing the sound of air being drawn out all around her, Wei Wei didn't even bother taking a look at that ashen face of Hellion Guangyao's, and flung the badge that represented the Hellion clan on the ground. She confidently turned around and willfully smiled wickedly, completely ignoring those stunned elders. Bang! Hellion Guangyao sent the chair before him flying with a kick. He seemed to not feel the pain in his hand as his eyes fixedly stared at Wei Wei's back and clenched his jaw tightly. A good. 4. Nothing who still had thoughts of controlling the whole clan was simply an imbecile with a pipe dream. Elder Nya, Hellion Guangyao coldly humphed, reached out and helped the elder up. What happened just now? Elder Nya didn't care and waved his hand. Don't know what kind of despicable method that girl used. Unexpectedly, my legs weakened. It can't be that she's cultivated qi, right? After hearing Wei Wei's speech, some people felt a bit unsettled. Elder Nya sneered, her. Cultivate qi. That kind of good. 4. Nothing like her. You guys have already seen it. Not even a tiny movement of a qi element is present in her body. What qi can she still cultivate? Besides, Miss Jiao Er is here. Even if that trash has qi, what can she do anyway? Even if she cultivated for a few hundred more years, she still can't surpass Miss Jiao Er. Mentioning Hellion Jiao Er, Hellion Guangyao confidently smiled. I saw Jiao Er 2 days ago. What's worth celebrating is that she's advanced again. Yet advanced again. The elder's eyes opened wide and stared in disbelief. It hasn't even been a year's time. Miss Jiao Er unexpectedly advanced again. Deserves to be called a genius among geniuses. Hearing this speech, the elders were even more convinced that they stood on the right side. Compared with that trash, Miss Jiao Er's future prospects were numerous. What's more, they already received news. Miss Jiao Er was very possibly the Phoenix, ****, a queen is also referred to as the Phoenix. As long as they can firmly grasp this ship, their careers will surely take off in the future. As for that good. 4. Nothing, most likely in the first round of competition, she'd already be forced down, already collapsing after the first blow. She simply was just a joke. However, they didn't know at all yet that in this world, there was a kind of cultivator who, even though they didn't have any bit of chi element, they could still control all the wind, water, and rain in the world. This kind of cultivator was hard to come by even in 100 years, and was even more powerful than a metal cultivator. And Wei Wei was precisely, exactly this kind of cultivator. Not only that, a demon was also concealed in her body. The invincible terror during those years in the past, Yuan Ming. Sooner or later, one day, they'll regret it. Yuan Ming finally returned, actually even more overbearing than before. In particular, the skill just now was really beautiful. The white cat perked up its ears and looked at the figure concealed behind Wei Wei and got excited. That's him. Oh, I forgot to introduce you guys. Little White, this is Yuan Ming. Yuan Ming, this is Little White. Wei Wei was completely nonchalant as she stretched her body, didn't look one bit like she's been driven away from the family clan. The corners of the white cat's mouth furiously twitched. He's already said so many times, he's called White River. White Fun's descendant. Yuan Ming took his own hair and pushed it behind, completely exposing his demon appearance. No wonder when I was sleeping, something broke through. Seems that it was you. The white cat's face froze, completely unexpectedly, it speaking with a deity the White Fun clan celebrated during their festivals. Contrary to expectations, Wei Wei's fingers brushed over her thin lips and smiled evilly. Since everyone is already present, then let's go and draw some blood from those stupid people. Chapter 80. Number 1 Gold Bucket. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Translator. Misty Cloud. Editor. Misty Cloud. The sky gradually darkened. A variety of lights came on. Looking at them from a distance, they appeared absolutely flourishing, bright and beautiful, exquisite, well-illuminated lamps. The criss-crossed roads were very beautifully embellished. At a street corner, a beggar who's curled up was startled awake by the sound of a coin clinking in the bowl. As he lifted up his head, out of the corner of his eyes, the setting sun set and night fell. He only saw the silhouette of a female standing. On her shoulder snuggled a white cat. A smile floated on her mouth. I'll pay you 10 taels of silvers. Take off your clothes and sell them to me. How could there be such a profitable business transaction? This was simply like picking up a huge meat pie in exchange for nothing. The beggar got up at once and quickly took off the worn and tattered long robe from his body. The girl smiled again, and bent her forefinger to flick 10 taels of silver into that broken bowl of his. After that, her hand hooked onto the robe and draped it on her own shoulders. The movement she used to wear the clothes was unusually quick and extremely elegant. A moment later, the tattered robe settled in place. A girl turned into a thoroughly authentic little beggar. She reached out and straightened out the robe's collar, casually strode with her long legs away from the dark alley. The corners of her mouth smiled as she walked towards the residence of the Nye family, a distinguished military family, not far in the distance. The guards at the door were used to seeing these beggars and looked at her scornfully as they waved her away. Go, wherever it's cool, go stay there. This is not a place you can come. That beggar didn't get angry and only smiled as a light wind started stirring. Her body turned as her leg kicked, the ensuing wind approached swiftly and fiercely, like a knife-stabbing bone. A bang sounded. The Nye family's entrance gate was forced to fly with a kick, chopping open a giant hole. The guards by the door were thoroughly stunned. They looked stupidly at the beggar walking forward as though no one was there. And finally yelled out, "Deploy the formation. Hurry and set up the formation. Somebody came to destroy this place." At the capital, every military family had their own distinctive tactical formations. The members of the formation were especially groomed by the clan and were willing to die in their service. Ednel.co. The guard shouted, soon seeing several groups of black-clothed people flit across the treetops. Their flying bodies dropped onto the ground and besieged Wei Wei at the center of the courtyard. They wore black uniforms and menacing looks on their faces. Exerting all efforts, they spun soaring kicks while pressing in from all sides. The beggar flipped to the side, her slender palm pushed from the ground and dodged the long legs coming at her. Her body revolved as it flew, on the corners of her mouth hung an indolent demonic smile, while she shuttled back and forth in between the group of black clothes like a phantom. The long hair moved slightly as fingers grabbed one of the person's ankle and ruthlessly pulled. Pop, pop, pow, bang. Only various sounds of movements were heard. Those 18 dark shadows, one after another, became confused and disorganized. When they finally reacted, all of them had already been made to kneel on the ground. Those guards at the gate rubbed and rubbed their eyes in disbelief. Looking at the shadows hugging their legs, shrinking and rolled up, gigantic waves surged in their hearts. Even though the Nie family's squad's formation couldn't be considered as the capital's best, however, they were still a large formation and difficult to handle. Unless someone's chi had reached wood rank level 5 or higher, it's impossible to defeat these troops. Could it be? This beggar had reached wood rank level 5 already. How was that possible? Don't even mention wood rank level 5, even someone with water rank level 5 would have been identified in the written records kept at the Imperial Palace. Because the majority of people were stuck at fire rank. It's very difficult to ascend from there. Within the Dragon War Empire, who could reach water rank, unless it's one of those influential military families' heirs. As for normal people, they could only dream about breaking through this kind of benchmark. Yet right now, in front of their eyes, suddenly appeared a little beggar whose background they're unclear about. What in the world was going on here? Hurry and go inform the master. After the guards heard this, they're just about to move. Wait. What? She left. Left. The Nie family's entire courtyard could almost be described as too tragic to look at. Darkly dressed people were sprawled chaotically on the ground, blood stains all over their faces. The beggar standing on the roof merely curved her lips and smiled, her words as distinctly clear and cold as the wind, "Thank you, training partners. Thank you, training partners. Thank you, training partners. Thank you, training partners. Training partners." Elder Nie, who hurried home from the defense division, when he heard his subordinates report, took large strides to arrive at the center of the courtyard. His dense eyebrows furrowed fiercely, while the Buddha beads turning in his hand also flew out immediately afterwards to fall heavily upon the ground and disintegrate into powder. "Who are you? What's your identity?" Elder Nie was truly angry. He never thought that at the capital, someone unexpectedly dared to challenge a powerful family. Who wasn't aware, who didn't know that even though his family wasn't the military's best, nevertheless, they were a central branch of the Hellion family, and he was a well-known figure. Yet today, surprisingly, someone took advantage of the time he went to the defense division and laid waste to his nest. Even if that was so. Training partner. The Grand Nie family was used by a little petty thief to train with. Investigate for me. After the answers have been found, I want to personally slaughter this little beggar. Elder Nie gnashed his teeth as he spoke, an unprecedented sinister light flashed in his eyes. Yes. One after another, the guards dropped their heads and didn't even dare to speak loudly. The Nie family's courtyard was in a mess. The atmosphere was indescribably grave. Elder Nie seemed like he thought of something, turned his head around and said softly, "The things that happened today, if someone dares to leak it outside, watch out for your worthless lives." Yes. This time, the ones replying were the servant girls. They trembled uncontrollably as they kneeled on the floor, obviously frightened by the old man's words, and simply didn't even dare to carelessly look around. Nowadays, all the influential clans have their eyes set on the martial chi exam being held not long from now. Ordinarily, they're all training strictly and secretly trying really hard. Nobody was willing to submit to someone else. If outsiders were to know of this matter, that a central branch from the majestic Helian family, the Nye family, suddenly was beaten by an unknown beggar without even the strength to retaliate. If this matter were to be spread outside, it'd surely reduce the Nye family into the biggest joke. But what Feng Shichao didn't anticipate was that for the next 3 successive days, not merely the Nye family, but 3 other families also similarly suffered being wiped out by an unknown beggar. If only one family experienced this, the secret could still be concealed. But if all the distinguished families in the capital met the same fate, it's the same as trying to contain fire by wrapping it inside a piece of paper. The entire capital had now been shaken. Each clan's people were looking for this beggar, so much that they even announced a ransom of 100,000 taels of silver. Just for the sake of capturing her, they're actually already willing to expend money. And at this moment, that beggar early on had already changed appearance with a single shake and became a student at White Academy who was in the middle of her first truly important profitable business transaction during the ancient times. Really didn't anticipate, it's been such a long time, I'm surprisingly talking business with a girl. The one talking was Josei, the second son of the He family, outstanding and well known within the capital. Typical of the northern military's second generation, ranked in the capital as the 5th most handsome man, strong and intelligent. A body covered with a graceful and luxurious cloak and robe turned and sat, then propped his chin. His overbearing gaze looked way up and down. After that, slightly smiled coolly, the one everybody thought was a spoiled good. 4. Nothing actually made good armaments.